All right. Apologies that I'm a few minutes late, and apologies that I have to have a jacket on inside. I just did something relatively new. I don't normally do this. I just swam in the San Francisco Bay on January 7th without a wetsuit at night. And I told Mike, I'm sometimes even I surprise myself with some of the stuff that I try. I don't think this is particularly smart, but it actually was the smartest thing I ever did. I feel great right now, but I'm still trying to warm up because it was a little bit chilly in there. Anyway, we got some 49ers news. Josh Williams, who is in San Francisco's front office, he's their director of scouting and football operations. Josh Williams is going to have a second interview in person with the Miami Dolphins for their general manager job. If Josh Williams does get that Miami GM job, then the 49ers would get 2 compensatory third-round draft picks. So the 49ers have been a popular destination for teams to go to find coaches and front office talent. Josh Williams is one of the bright young minds in the game. Mike was able to cut a quick clip of Josh speaking to the media after the NFL draft earlier here in the 2024 season. So we can go ahead and take a look at that.
That's just a big part of our process. Like, for every player we draft, we have a vision for them. And we're constantly talking to our coaches, talking to each other. We work collectively to kind of make sure we have a vision for how they're going to make this team, how they're going to make us better. So it was a big part of the conversation, for sure, with Robert Saleh when he got back here.
So that was from this offseason. Remember, the 49ers in this draft, they focused defense heavy early on. And I have to say that they ended up drafting really well. The problem is that this team has just been decimated by injuries. But over the first, 4 or 5 picks, it was all defensive guys. Robert Saleh approved. Josh Williams. Sorry about that. We X'd out there. It wasn't me getting hypothermia. It was me actually accidentally Xing out of the screen here on StreamYard, which is the software that I use. But Josh Williams, who was helping the 49ers get some of these players in the NFL draft, he worked closely with Robert Saleh to make sure that the talent that the 49ers procured would fit into the vision of their defensive system. And when Saleh came in, it was obviously a reset back to the early Shanahan days. As far as coaching went, the 49ers had struggled through 2 years defensively of Steve Wilks and then Nick Sorensen. They had dropped all the way down to number 29 in run defense. And what San Francisco needed to do was fix the run defense first. And the personnel department, Josh Williams being a key part of it, made sure that run defense was at the top of the focus, and they made sure that the pieces that they got for the run defense would fit with what Robert Saleh was trying to do. Through 9 weeks of this season, the 49ers ranked number 6 in run defense, an improvement from number 29 in EPA run defense last year. Unfortunately, Mykel Williams then got hurt. But the fact that the 49ers, with this young group of players, even though Nick Bosa got hurt in week 3 and Fred Warner got hurt in week 6, the fact that they were able to hold together the number 6 run defense in football, put together that big of an improvement over the first half of the year when Mykel Williams was there setting the edge. Remember, that's why they got him out of Georgia, because the sack numbers in college weren't there either, but the guy could set an edge. They saw him as the best edge-setting, run-defending defensive end in all of college football. That draft pick worked. It worked wonders. The 49ers aren't in this position right now in the playoffs with 12 wins if Mykel Williams wasn't setting the edge that he was setting over the first 9 weeks of the year. They've dropped from number 6 to number 26, weeks 10 onward, in run defense without Mykel in there. That's just one example, but there are several others of how this draft class fed perfectly into what the vision was for the 49ers defensively in this 2025 season. Anyway, that's the short explanation of why Josh Williams is getting a look at a GM job elsewhere. Tariq Ahmad, another person high up in the 49ers front office, overseeing a lot of what they're doing personnel-wise, I think deserves and will get personnel looks at a GM level elsewhere. And the 49ers are going to continue churning out this talent because they are building good rosters year in, year out. The roster this year for the 49ers was so good that they suffered a mass injury event and still finished 12-5 in a roster reset year. So, I mean, just let that sink in. The 49ers in just a bad season as far as injury luck have still been able to reach a point where they're 12-5 entering the playoffs. And this is why their front office is so popular. This is why other teams are going to want to raid the front office, and Josh Williams is one of those guys. Anyway, I'm going to open this up to questions. We're going to play some videos. Mike's saying that I'm freezing out a little bit. Mike, is it acceptable? Because I don't know what to do. I mean, I just got out of 51-degree water, and I have closed out all windows here. I just wanted to run a nice casual live for everybody with some of the latest news. We can talk about the 49ers and the Eagles. Obviously, it's at the top of everybody's minds. We can talk about playoff expectations. We can start to talk about how the 49ers are going to try to use this playoff run to set the table for 2026. We're going to have a lot of fun with all this. So this was impromptu. Hopefully, technically, we're in a decent spot. But Mike says that it sounds good, and I think that that's what people care about more. You know, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to get the article up on the screen, and I could relay what I learned in the 49ers locker room today and what I wrote up on the San Francisco Standard. So let me grab this. Let me share the screen. Here we go. So I was in the locker room today, and Fred Warner walked in. It's the second time that I've seen Fred Warner in the locker room during the open media portion during the week since early October, when he broke his ankle and dislocated his ankle. The subtext here is that Fred Warner is nearing his potential return. Fred today, Eric Kendricks had the media gaggle around him. Fred today walked up to the media gaggle, pretended to be one of the reporters, and kind of just reached his arm there with an invisible microphone in it and pretended to interview Eric Kendricks. Nobody really noticed. I saw Fred, and then Fred, before people started to notice that he was right there standing behind all the reporters reaching over them, he kind of just laughed and skipped away to his locker. And I say skipped away because he looks completely healthy to me. There's no more brace on the ankle. It's been a long time since he was in crutches or on one of those knee scooters. Fred is walking around just fine. And the fact that he's in the locker room for the 49ers right now means that he's not having the rehab 6 hours a day anymore, which means that the return or the potential return is getting closer and closer. And I thought that it was really symbolic that Fred walked up to Eric Kendricks' interview, because Eric Kendricks is going to be taken over as the 49ers Mike linebacker this week. Eric is going to be the fourth 49ers starting Mike linebacker of this season. It began with Fred. It continued with Tatum Bethune. Tatum then suffered a high ankle sprain, so it went to Curtis Robinson. Tatum came back and tore his groin, so now it's not going back to Curtis Robinson, because in the meantime, the 49ers have added Eric Kendricks, who was an All-Pro in 2019. They've also now added Kaiser White, and because Dee Winters got hurt, Kaiser White might take over as the weak side linebacker. So there is a strong chance that the 49ers have two new linebackers, Eric Kendricks and Kaiser White, at the Mike and the Will positions, entering a playoff game against Philadelphia. And, you know, I'll say the quiet part out loud. I know that the 49ers don't want to say this, but you guys know that I just give the unfiltered truth. I think that the 49ers are very obviously counting on, or I would say they're counting on it. They're definitely hoping for an addition by subtraction situation, because the linebacker play for San Francisco was absolutely terrible against the Seattle Seahawks. And I think it's been bad stretching back before that. And I talk about Mykel Williams getting hurt in week 9 and the run defense falling off. When you lose that edge setting ability, the monstrous edge setting, pocket pushing ability, who's rushing from the inside, that Mykel Williams delivered for this football team, on top of the Nick Bosa loss, on top of the Fred Warner loss, you're going to need some good linebacker play from guys further down the depth chart without as much notoriety as a Fred Warner. You're going to need some really good linebacker play to pick up the slack. And to be 100% honest, the 49ers haven't gotten that, which is why the defense has slid to where it's at right now. Weighted DVOA, which is going to consider more recent games more heavily, has the 49ers defense at number 29 in the league. So entering the playoffs, the only way that they have a shot to make some noise in the playoffs and then see where this falls, even if their offense is playing at a very high level, the only way that they have a shot is if they find some improvement defensively. And the fact that you're going to fresh 2 linebackers, the fact that you're going to Fred Warner, you might go to Fred Warner, not yet though, but the fact that you're going to Eric Kendricks and Kaiser White now, I think the only way to go is up for the 49ers. And, a lot of the problems that we saw against Seattle, just wrong gaps for the 49ers linebackers. The Zach Charbonnet touchdown run was one where Tatum Bethune, he had the D gap. Like, that was his responsibility. I know that Jair Brown got swallowed up by the tight end. That was another problem on the play. But the gap was empty because Bethune was not in it. He's trying to take away the run to the right when it was an easy cut back to the left for Charbonnet because he hadn't flipped his hips. And that's the kind of stuff that I think that veteran linebackers like Eric Kendricks, a guy that's been an all-pro in the past, that's the kind of stuff that these guys can sniff out. I think Kaiser White can sniff that kind of stuff out, even without a lot of time acclimating to the playbook. Now, Eric Kendricks has been with the 49ers since November 26th. Not like he just joined the team. He's going to have the radio in his helmet. And that's a more complicated position than the weak side, the will position. Kaiser White's going to try to pick up the will position in 3 days. The Mike position, Eric Kendricks has had 6 weeks to pick that up and to communicate to the defense. I thought that the 26 snaps that he put in after Tatum Bethune went out with the injury against the Seattle Seahawks were the best non-Warner linebacker snaps that the 49ers had seen all season. Who knows what Kaiser White's going to be able to give them? I do know he had 137 tackles for Arizona last year. I do know that he's a violent player on film. He's a big linebacker. Obviously somebody who's probably not in his physical prime anymore. Otherwise, he would have been with a team. He mutually agreed with Tennessee on a release about a month ago so that he could sign with a playoff contender. Both he and Kendricks, Kaiser White and Kendricks, are in the same headspace right now as far as they wanted to be with a team that had a chance because they know that they're probably in the later years of their careers. Kendricks might be in the last one of his career, and they want to play meaningful football. They want to take the wealth of knowledge, what they've seen in front of them, as far as being able to shed blocks, fire gaps, identify plays, not necessarily in that order. You got to identify it before you do the other two things. Those guys want to apply it to a team where it matters. And now they both should have that chance this weekend against Philadelphia. Now, it's not a certainty that Kaiser White starts. It is that Eric Kendricks starts, but D. Winters has an ankle injury. And if D is unable to go, then I think White is the favorite for that job for the 49ers, even on short notice. That is how desperate the 49ers are to get some better play at that situation. Now, if all goes well, these two guys, Kendricks and White, will build the bridge to Fred Warner's return. And that's why I wrote about Fred Warner here on the San Francisco Standard. I mean, I opened up the article talking about Warner, and then you guys know me. I love to dig into 49ers history. This is the most desperate they've been on defense entering the playoffs since the 1998 season. In 1998, the 49ers were completely decimated along the defensive line. I'm sure you guys remember there was a game against the New York Giants on Monday Night Football in 1998 where Bryant Young just shattered his leg. And he was their best defensive lineman, needless to say. Bryant Young was awesome. The 49ers lost Bryant Young. They entered the playoffs with the best offense in football. It was Steve Young, Garrison Hurst, Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens. I think Greg Clark was the tight end of that football team. Really good offense. J.J. Stokes was on that team too. but a defense ranked in the 20s. And they were playing the Packers, and they had lost 5 straight games to the Green Bay Packers. And they needed to find a way to beat Green Bay, but they knew that their defense probably wasn't good enough as it was constructed with the injuries, especially the injury to Bryant Young entering the postseason. So the 49ers went ahead and they signed a guy off the street. His name was Charles Haley. The same Charles Haley they traded away to Dallas after the 1991 season, ahead of 1992. The future Hall of Famer, Charles Haley. He had tipped the scales. He had tipped the balance of power in the 49ers-Cowboys rivalry in the early 90s. But then in early 1999, before the 49ers were about to play the Packers, they were on the heels of 5 straight defeats to Green Bay. They signed Haley off of his couch. He had been out of football for about 2 years. I think he had been dealing with a back injury. And they brought Haley into the fold in San Francisco, and he helped tip the scales of the 49ers-Packers rivalry. He had tipped the scales in Dallas's favor when they traded him to the Cowboys. He tipped the scales back into the 49ers' favor when they played the Packers. How he pressured Brett Favre and forced an interception in the second half that helped set up one of the most famous 49ers catches of all time. It's now known as the catch 2 by Terrell Owens against Green Bay. Now, the best part of this story is that back in the day, this was a different NFL era. It was over a quarter century ago. The 49ers were able to pay Charles Haley $10,000 to play this game. And the $10,000 ended up being very, very worth it. I wrote this up on The Athletic back when I used to work for them. You should absolutely check out the San Francisco Standard because that's where the best coverage is now. But back when I was with The Athletic, I got to write this article. And this was about Bryant Young. This was about Charles Haley. And this was about John Madden and Pat Summerall on the TV broadcast. Charles Haley pressured Brett Favre in this must-win game against the Green Bay Packers. It forced Favre to throw one of his trademark interceptions. Brett Favre threw a lot of those, the most in NFL history. And John Madden literally said, the 49ers are paying Charles Haley $10,000 to play this game, and he just earned his $10,000 on that play. He's the guy that gets there to make Brett Favre throw this interception. Now that is a $10,000 play. Anyway, the moral of the story is that the 49ers have been this beaten up defensively before, entering a wild card game against a real rival who beat them the previous time they played in the playoffs. And the 49ers have prevailed thanks to a signing off the street. In the 1998 season case, it was Charles Haley. In this 2025 season case, it's going to have to be Kaiser White and Eric Kendricks, who's a former All-Pro. So he's no chump. He's a former All-Pro who the 49ers have brought in. Will they have a dramatic moment like this? Well, if we're talking about Terrell Owens in the receiver position, I'm sure people want to know about Ricky Pearsall. He was working off on the side today. You know, we could talk all we want about the 49ers defense needing a little extra boost from the linebacker position, and that makes total sense to me. That checks out. They obviously need a little extra juice there, but where the challenge is greatest, I think, this week is against Philadelphia's defense. This is probably a top 5 defense. They're number 6 in EPA. Weighted DVOA has them at number 4. They're the defending Super Bowl champs. The Eagles have a 40.2% pressure rate as a defense, meaning that these guys can bring the heat. And to diffuse the heat, you need Trent Williams. I think he's going to play. He didn't practice today, but I think that's trending in the right direction for the 49ers. But B, what you didn't have last week, what really screwed you last week was the absence of Ricky Pearsall, because he practiced all week, but then he didn't play. And I asked Kyle Shanahan today, and this is still something that we don't really have firmly answered. The 49ers obviously don't want to talk about it all too loud, but the 49ers, I think, built their game plan around Pearsall being available last week. Shanahan said that, I asked Shanahan, did Pearsall aggravate his injury during practice last week? Is that why he was unable to go, and Shanahan said no, he aggravated the PCL injury during the game against the Bears. So to me, it still doesn't make sense. Well, why didn't Ricky Pearsall practice today then? Because he practiced last week and the aggravation came before all those practices. Something here is obviously not right. People don't seem all too happy about this situation. That's all that I know. I'm just reading what I know, what's publicly available, and trying to draw intelligent inferences, because I did see the 49ers not use Jake Tonjes against the Seattle Seahawks. I didn't see them use 3 tight end sets, and they were very deficient at wide receiver. Like, I think that was clear. They're deficient along the offensive line with no Trent Williams. They were deficient at the wide receiver position with no Ricky Pearsall. The natural pivot point there would have been to move to the guy who was the hot hand, the tight end, Jake Tonjes, the week prior, pair him up with George Kittle, but he didn't get a single offensive snap. So something leads me to believe that they had prepared with Pearsall in the fold, because he did practice every single day of the week, but then didn't have Pearsall for game day. And I think that really handcuffed the offense against the Seattle Seahawks. So moving forward, Pearsall is working off on the side today. I think the 49ers would certainly, if like a little bit more, just certainty as is Pearsall going to play or not, because you're playing another good defense, another defense where you could use the separation, the space making ability that Ricky Pearsall brings to the table. Remember, I wrote this and I talked about this when we've done all our checkups on the 49ers offense analytically. When Brandon Ayuk defected from this football team, Ricky Pearsall became the hinge point at receiver. There's a reason why wideouts make a lot of money, why they paid Brandon Ayuk $30 million annually, because those are the guys that create the space on the field, on the perimeter. In the modern NFL, you need to be good at that position, period. Like, there no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no quarterback who could work his way around seriously deficient talent at wide receiver. I mean, it sunk even Patrick Mahomes, and everybody talks about him as the best quarterback in the game. Well, look where the Chiefs ended up this year with that deficiency in the receiver room. They're 6-11. They finished with the same record as the 49ers last season. So you need that receiving talent. And when Ayuk, whom the 49ers obviously were counting on because they paid him all that money, defected from the team, didn't return this year, all of the focus was on the next most talented guy in the room, and that's Ricky Pearsall. And obviously, Ricky toughed it out against the Bears. He was a huge part of that win. But then he didn't play against the Seattle Seahawks, and you saw exactly, especially against an elite defense, where the 49ers fell short. And it was in that downfield stretching, space-making, separation department. Along those lines, just like receiver is a highly paid position that every single team in the NFL needs to succeed at a high level, especially against good defenses, left tackle is really important too. Like, offensive line in general is obviously important. 49ers have played well up front this year. They lose Trent Williams. I don't think it affected just left tackle where Austin Pleasance filled in. I think that affected left guard as well. I think that Trent had masked a lot of the deficiencies of Spencer Burford at that left guard position, and it is not a coincidence that they show up against a really good Seattle front, and Spencer Burford plays by far his worst game of the year without Trent Williams next to him. Now you face a Philadelphia defensive front that is powerful, that is awesome, that pressures the quarterback 40.2% of snaps. So you absolutely have to be locked in if you're the 49ers as an offensive line. You absolutely need Burford to get all the help that he can get against the Eagles. I mean, they're going to be coming with Jalen Carter on the inside. He's a wrecker of the game at the defensive tackle position. Well, I think that having Trent Williams would be a big, big boost for San Francisco. Anyway, Mike has a little bit more news. We can talk about all this in a Q&A. Mike sent me something from Instagram, and this is on Maxx Crosby. Maxx Crosby has officially undergone surgery. I'm going to save this. I'm going to get it up on the screen, and we're going to have something nice to look at. We had the Terrell Owens catch against the Green Bay Packers. Now we can take a look at the Maxx Crosby surgery post from Instagram. Here we go. So Crosby's the Raiders pass rusher who, this was a weird situation. Apparently, he didn't want to get shut down for the last couple games of the season, but the Raiders did shut him down. They put him on injured reserve. Apparently, he stormed out of the building, very upset that they shut him down, but he did need meniscus surgery. I'm guessing that Maxx Crosby wanted to play the final 2 games because he's the ultimate warrior. He's a competitor, and then wanted to undergo the surgery. But the Raiders said, no, we suck, as we usually do. We're going to shut you down right now, and you could have the surgery right now because we don't want to risk further damage. But the Raiders have carried just a strange mentality around to almost everything that they do for quite a bit of time, but especially recently, they've been very, very bad. And you could see somebody who's, a gladiator, a warrior like Maxx Crosby, you could see how being in that environment for 7 or 8 years could rub him the wrong way. And that's why he was upset. And all of a sudden, there was a lot of speculation that the Raiders and Maxx Crosby might actually part ways, because maybe the way that this whole knee surgery and timeline of this was handled by the team is something that would make Maxx Crosby irreparably mad. So that naturally led people to speculate, well, the 49ers, they could use another edge rusher. Maybe they could trade for Maxx Crosby. And the first thing that I would say is that the Raiders, especially when Mark Davis has been in charge, have been unwilling to trade with the 49ers. But from my understanding now, the Raiders, Davis probably has veto power. Like, I don't think he would have given that up. But it sounds like he's handed over the keys to the car to Tom Brady. And if Tom Brady really is running everything over there, and if the Raiders want to reset, start over, and they want to move on to, a ton of draft picks or whatever, Maxx Crosby could be tradable, and maybe Tom Brady would be willing to deal with the 49ers. I think that this offseason is one where the 49ers are going to be set to make at least one splash. Last offseason, we entered saying, hey, the 49ers they're going to press the reset button on the roster, on the salary cap. And they still built a team that might have had the best roster in the league. They still finished with 12 wins despite a mass injury event. But it was year 1 in the cycle. It was like the Rams a couple years ago when they finished 10-7. That was year 1 in the cycle. The Rams are in year 3 now, and they made bigger splashes. They signed Devontae Adams, for example. I think that the 49ers entering year 2 of the cycle, especially considering the fact that they're getting the Brandon Ayuk money back, that's going to open up for them. I think they're going to be ready to make some big investments. I don't know if the Raiders are going to make Crosby available. I don't know if that's going to turn into something where he is on the market. But I do know that the 49ers are going to be in much better position to pounce on an opportunity like this offseason than they were last offseason. And for everything else, we should just sit back, kick back, and wait to see what happens. The 49ers play a playoff game this weekend, and the Raiders don't. So some of this offseason stuff can wait a while for all that I'm concerned. But just wanted to share that latest news on Maxx Crosby. The way I look at this right now, and I think this is the right way to look at it, 49ers are playing with house money in the postseason. Whenever this postseason ends, it's going to be something that fans are probably sad about, but you probably shouldn't be sad about it for more than one night. Sleep it off whenever it does end and start focusing on the offseason, because the 49ers are already in a spot where this season has been unquestionably successful at 12-5 in a reset year, mass injury event. They've outplayed the statistics by at least 2 games. Like, the advanced stats suggest they should have been about 10-7, which is where the Rams were, for example, in their own roster reset year in 2023. And the 49ers have emulated that. So the fact that they were even playing for the 1 seed against the Seattle Seahawks at home to close the regular season was a miracle for the 49ers. I think it's very important for fans to wrap their heads around that. And they didn't have enough juice. The Magic ran out against the Seattle Seahawks, and they didn't have Pearsall and Trent Williams in that game. They didn't have Fred Warner and Nick Bosa in that game. They didn't have Brandon Ayuk in that game. They're down 5 tremendously important pillar players against the Seahawks, and they didn't win. It's not a big deal. Like, it's like, at the end of the day, that's not a game that you play it 10 times. It's a game they might win once, and it fell on the 9 times. And Okay, you move on to the postseason and you count your blessings and you say, well, wow, we overcame a lot just to get to this point, and now we'll see what they can do through the wild card bracket of the postseason. You know, maybe they turn into I've always compared this team to some of those San Francisco Giants teams that ended up winning the World Series. The analytics at the end of the year never said, oh, the Giants should have won this World Series. They weren't the best team in baseball. They got hot at the right time. They went the hard way. They won some greasy games. They got some greasy breaks. And at the end of the day, they raised up the trophy. That's obviously still possible for the 49ers, but it was never probable for them, and it was never probable for those Giants teams. You just have to sit back and enjoy the ride, enjoy the torture as it comes. And I think that they're in position to play another close game against the Philadelphia Eagles this weekend, and we will see if it breaks into the 49ers' favor. But regardless of the outcome this weekend, regardless of the outcome next weekend, if they win this one, the offseason, like, buckle up. The offseason is going to be fun because the fact that they got to 12-5 in a reset year with all these injuries, they're going to get guys back. They're going to be able to bolster the roster. Purdy is going to be a year more experienced in 2026, and they're going to be able to make a true run at this with a complete outfit in 2026. They're going to be able to spend Ayuk money. They're going to be able to, make trades, do all this and all that over the course of the offseason. It's going to be really, really fun to chart heading into 2026 and beyond. So that's what I'm here for. And hey, maybe they're going to have some extra draft picks because Josh Williams, I could circle back to the news of the day. He's interviewing, second interview with the Miami Dolphins and their GM job. And if Josh does get that job, then the 49ers will be looking at 2 compensatory third-round picks to bolster their draft positioning over the course of the next couple years. All right, I'm going to head into the comments section. I promised a Q&A. I've been talking for 31 minutes. Those of you just joining, I did swim in the bay at night. It was cold. I might be a little bit delirious right now, but my followers, my subscribers, I mean, we're going to be the first channel, the first 49ers channel that makes it to 100,000 real subscribers. Look, we're at 97,617. Hit that sub button right now and help us get to 100,000 real subscribers. We don't buy and pay for our subscribers. We actually have people who watch our show in droves. Look, we have 3.8 million views over the last 28 days. That's crazy. Anyway, hit the sub button. Also, if you can, make sure you go and check out the San Francisco Standard, because this is where that very best 49ers coverage is. You could see Eric Kendricks right there. Talk to him today. Talk to Kaiser White today. Brock Purdy and Mac Jones, the 2 top quarterbacks of the 49ers and 2 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the National Football League, they both spoke today very briefly because they won the Gary Niver Award. They're tied. That's the award that goes to the 49ers player, or players in this case, who's the most cooperative and professional with the media. Well, it's a tie between Purdy and Mac Jones. And take a look at this. 2 quarterbacks in the top 10 of QBR in the NFL. Jones, number 9. Brock Purdy all the way up at number 2. So the 49ers, this, in a season where so much adversity hit, one of the ways that San Francisco was able to stay afloat was because the quarterbacks were so damn good for the 49ers. Purdy at the very top there with Drake May, and Jones ahead of Lamar Jackson at number 9. Anyway, they won that award today. I could even find the video, maybe play it here. I think that I transferred it to my computer earlier. Matt Barrows and Matt Mayoka gave him the award, and I was able to film it. And we saw some of that personality that we get to see very often from Mac as this was happening. Brock is going to be a little bit more serious about everything. Mac is the guy that's going to be joking about stuff, and we saw that personality shine through. Have a watch.
Brock, Mac. So congratulations and thanks very much.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, thank you guys for the coverage. Yeah, appreciate it. How y'all do it? So appreciate it. This is Max Award, really? Good job. Appreciate you. Thank you guys.
Yeah. It was a legitimate tie. Like we all vote and we kind of rank them, and it came up as a tie.
Nice.
So
It was fun, man.
We thought it was very appropriate.
Yeah. Appreciate that. We appreciate it.
We appreciate how you guys handled it.
Yeah, you guys are actually fun, so.
Actually,
Yeah, so appreciate it.
okay,
Thanks, guys.
great.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys.
Was that a shot at the Boston media from Mac Jones? You guys are actually fun. So this is well documented. Mac wasn't allowed to show his personality in Boston, the Patriot way, all that stuff. But yeah, the Boston media, those guys can be a little harsh, right? And you guys are actually fun was good. That was called the Gary Niver Award. It is given every year to the 49ers player who is most cooperative and professional with the media. This year, it went to both Mac Jones and Brock Purdy because they finished tied. I'm playing the video without sound right now while I talk. So it was really cool to get both of them over by Brock Purdy's locker, both standing there together at Brock Purdy's locker. Just enjoy what kind of quarterback room the 49ers had this year. I mean, again, both of these guys finished in the top 10 of QBR. You could be a Browns fan. You could have to deal with Shedeur Sanders, who ranked worst in essentially every single metric this year. You could be dealing with the Bucks and Baker Mayfield, who started off hot, but obviously finished cold for Tampa Bay and didn't even make the playoffs. You could be dealing with any other number of quarterback rooms, but instead you get Brock Purdy, one of the elite quarterbacks in the game, an absolute superstar, and then the best backup in the game in Mac Jones, and you have two of them finish in the top 10, top 9 of QBR. That is absolutely sensational stuff for San Francisco. And then they're both good guys. They're both friendly with the media. They're both professional with the media. So they both finished tied at number 1 for that award. So I've covered the Niners now for 9 seasons. Just finished my 9th regular season. Never seen a tie for the Gary Niver Award until Mac Jones and Brock Purdy finished at the very top. So really cool stuff. I think that Mac's personality has been great, not only for the quarterback room, but for the 49ers team as a whole. And just fun to be able to give both of those guys that award as we head to the 49ers game against the Philadelphia Eagles in the postseason. All right, any questions? Finally getting to that part of the show. I'm going to have to go get some good food. Like I said, I was swimming in the bay, and now the hunger is starting to kick in because my body has started to thaw out. I'm wearing like an outdoor jacket, as you can see inside. But I've warmed up a little bit. Lombardi herself flew back to Nashville today, which meant that I started doing crazy stuff like swimming in the bay while it was dark. You know, when you do that, you use Ghirardelli Square and the big neon lights, and you use the Transamerica Pyramid as your North Stars. The pyramid is nice because you can't see anything in that water. And sometimes there's like a little bit of debris after a storm. There's like a piece of wood or something. You hit a piece of wood, like you're in the dark, cold water. You're swimming. Holy crap. What was that? Was that like a seal? Was it a shark? No, just a piece of wood. But you're swimming and you're like, where the hell am I? How do I get back to the club? How do I get back to the sauna? And the way that you do it, because it's so dark out there, is that you see this, tallest skyscraper north of Market Street in San Francisco is the Transamerica Pyramid, and you aim toward the pyramid. And you keep on, I have night goggles and they're not night vision, but they're just like clear. They're not smoked. I have day goggles to protect myself from the sun. And I have night goggles that are clear at night. And I can see enough when I'm swimming. I like kind of go above the waves and I look forward and I could see the pyramid, and I just aim toward the pyramid, and you finally make it back to the club, and then you have to thaw out. I was really cold. I'm like, oh crap, I scheduled a live, so I have to go talk about the 49ers. So that's where we're at right now, and I'm waiting for some good questions. Let's go. The weather in Philadelphia might be a little bit rainy this weekend, but it looks like it could also be dry on Sunday. Unclear. You never expect good weather on the East Coast in January. I think that's a good rule of thumb. If Saleh leaves, what are the chances the 49ers get Jim Schwartz? Well, I think Jim Schwartz is under contract in Cleveland, unfortunately, and the owner wants to keep him. I don't know how long his contract is, though. I think Gus Bradley, who's currently on the 49ers staff, might be a favorite to take over if Robert Saleh does leave. That would also gain the 49ers. If Saleh gets a head coaching job, that would be 2 more third-round compensatory picks. So we're talking about Josh Williams. Robert Saleh can also be somebody who fetches the 49ers some compensatory selections. I don't think that Pete Carroll would be the pick if Robert Saleh left. I think Pete Carroll might be happy to head off into retirement. He's going to be 75 years old this year. I think he got paid, $45 million by the Raiders over 3 years. He's still going to make the money over the next 2. I don't think that Fangio took shots at Purdy yesterday. Fangio said that Purdy's a really good scrambler and a really good quarterback. If you're talking about the Mac Jones comment, that wasn't a shot. That he was complimenting both Mac and Brock. They're 2 good quarterbacks. I mean, we don't have to look for the negatives in every single thing that we see. I think that there's a lot of respect for Brock Purdy from around the league. I think the media and social media creates most of these issues here, and some of them they try to create out of thin air. I saw the Fangio press conference, and I did not think that he was taking shots at Brock Purdy. Do I think that the mediocre safety play warrants an addition there? Probably. I don't think that Jair Brown has ever been a solid guy. That's why they try to start Jason Pinnock this year. I think that Malik Mustafa is fresh off the ACL this season. He's probably going to be more explosive, probably have a better year next year. But I think that second safety spot has been a liability for San Francisco this year, and I think that is something they're going to have to address this offseason. They've had a lot of trouble at safety and at linebacker in the middle of this defense. Corner, I think, has been a success story in general this year. Lenore is a really good player. Upton Stout, he's been awesome, and he's playing his best football right now. So, I mean, I think that the fact that Stout is small helps him because he's strong. He put up more bench press reps than any corner at the combine this past year, yet he's 5'8". So he's nimble. He can't really. I talked to my dad on the phone today, and he's like, you can't really measure that nimbleness. Maybe the 3-cone stuff like that. But with Stout, I mean, he could fit places too. He could fit. He's nimble, and then he's strong on top of that. So he could shed blocks of guys who are bigger, heavier than him. He's going to be a star. He might already be a star. So it's been successful in that regard. But you got to get better up the middle. If you're this 49ers defense, that's safety, and that's the linebacker position outside of Fred Warner. This is true, actually. Saleh doesn't get the 49ers a comp pick unless he stays for 2 seasons. Thank you for correcting me there. Josh Williams has been with the 49ers for 14 years, so that would give him a comp pick. Saleh, and there's a good chance that Saleh, because this defense ranks in the 20s, because this defense has slid with all the injuries, that Saleh doesn't get a job this cycle. And if he stays for a second year, and that's worth a lot to the 49ers, they'll try to handsomely reward him financially staying into 2026. I think Saleh himself, there's something in him that probably makes him want to coach a fully healthy 49ers defense. I mean, they looked like a top 5 unit week 1 in Seattle when they held the Seahawks to 13 legitimate. Like, it was a legitimate 13-point effort from the 49ers defense. It wasn't like the BS 13-point effort that we saw on Saturday. Yeah, they gave up 13, but Seattle missed 2 field goals. The 49ers gave up a 3rd and 17 on the ground. The 49ers couldn't, fill the right gap in the run game multiple different times. That wasn't a good performance. Like, they got lucky to hold Seattle to 13. In week 1, they held Seattle to 13, and they deserved it. That's when they had all their horses. I would think that Robert Saleh would want to coach that group, plus more guys. And yeah, maybe he gets offered the Cardinals job, but I wouldn't think it's even smart to take the Cardinals job if you're Robert Saleh. I mean, it's a dysfunctional organization. That's the kind of team that wishes a coach a happy birthday 12 hours before they fire him on social media. That literally happened with Jonathan Gannon. So Robert's got to be picky this time around. And I think given that there is a solid chance that he does stay for another year, and that could help the 49ers down the road in that whole comp pick process. But most importantly, it could help them build this defense into 2026 when guys come back and guys are healthy. All right, 49ers Eagles coming up. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning. I'm hungry. I deserve this food that I'm about to go get. We'll talk to everybody very, very soon. Everybody hit that subscribe button. We want to be the first to 100,000 real subscribers. Look, we're at 97,619. We've added a couple since last time. So everybody sign up. The sub count here. Let me show you guys the behind the scenes of the sub count. We've added 2,000 over the course of the last 28 days, 2,100 over the course of the last 28 days. It's like a little spike chart. It's dipped a little bit because people are not that happy about the Seahawks loss, but we want to get it to spike again. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Appreciate everybody, and we will talk to you very soon.